there, you're watching COVID 360, where we bring you the highlights of the biggest COVID-19 stories and also get you news that you can use. I'm Sneha Mordani. First up, being comorbid doesn't really make one susceptible to SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19, but increasingly comorbid patients are falling ill to a vicious cycle of the disease, given the complications arising out of conditions like diabetes and heart disease. Here is a report on what can comorbid patients do to help their own situation. They could be young, but their comorbidity is costing them their life. Medical experts are seeing a trend in those having comorbidities getting entrapped in a vicious cycle of disease that is leading to death. Often, the victims are in their prime.
People with diabetes, obesity, heart disease and kidney disease, etc. are not at increased risk of getting COVID infection. The risk is about the same as everyone else. The difference is that they have a reduced reserve capacity and poorer metabolism, leading to reduced immunity. Once the virus gets in, they are not able to mount a quick or strong enough immune response to reduce the virus and prevent it from replicating, so they have a more severe infection. Additionally, as the phase of inflammation starts, usually in the second week, these patients have very poor reserve and are not able to sustain such a strong inflammation, and the heart or kidneys can give up.
From diabetes to heart disease to patients landing up with black fungus and multi-organ failure, the complications are many. The government, realizing the huge burden of diabetes in India, the diabetes capital of the world, has now issued an advisory. But being diabetic itself invites a host of problems. Wrong use of steroids leading to black fungus, prolonged use of antifungal medicines leading to kidney ailments.
Patients who have in the background diabetes, blood pressure or heart disease, or who are obese, they are at a higher risk of contracting the disease and have a more fatal course. A lot of these patients, whether they are young or old, if they have diabetes or obesity in the background, have a more turbulent course. They land up on ventilator and generally have a poorer outcome.
But with over 77 million Indians diabetic, the burden is staggering. The risk of secondary infections are high in patients suffering from COVID-19 or even after recovering from COVID-19. Doctors say sugar levels need to be kept in check. If there is hypertension along with diabetes, one has to keep their weight in check.
They must follow the usual precautions of masking whenever outside their home, avoiding any crowded places, maintaining distance of at least 6 feet from anyone else, and using proper hand hygiene. In addition, it is important they monitor their own illness as well. Keep the sugars and BP under control. Make sure the lab tests and doctor consults are done on time. For most chronic problems, doctor consults can be done online. Also, as soon as any symptoms of possible COVID infection develop, they must immediately seek medical advice.
Amidst growing concerns of deadly repercussions for those having comorbidities as far as COVID-19 is concerned, there is an opinion and a sense that these people should be getting the jab first. The initial plan of the Government of India had streamlined the process in such a way that those with comorbidities were getting the jab first. But since vaccination opened up for everyone above the age of 18, many such people are getting left out, and there is a concern that they continue to be vulnerable. In New Delhi, Sneha Mordani for India Today. Convalescent plasma therapy has been dropped from the treatment guidelines of the Government of India because there is little evidence to show that it has helped in saving lives. I break down India's treatment protocol to explain how there is actually very little evidence to show that whichever medicine is being used now in the country to manage the infection is working effectively. Plasma therapy has been dropped from India's treatment protocol. Top scientists say this was much needed. Experts say that this has been doing more harm than helping.
By the time antibodies are administered, most patients have gone past the need for additional antibodies. There is also a concern that if plasma is given to someone who's immunosuppressed, that is, someone with low immunity, the virus will get a chance to study the antibodies and make adjustments, leading to dangerous variants.
The Indian Council of Medical Research has cited poor evidence, over-reliance on anecdotal evidence which may be misleading, burdening of the healthcare system, unnecessary panic and unreasonable demands for it, as well as the cost of plasma therapy as the main reasons behind the scientific body taking this call. But the government does admit that when it comes to SARS-CoV-2, we have made little progress in finding a treatment.
We've made huge research as far as vaccine is concerned, but developing an antiviral drug has not been that rapid, and that's because viruses are always difficult to treat in terms of developing drugs, because like we've seen, they tend to change, they tend to mutate, and therefore you are really chasing the virus rather than developing strategies.
Factor this in. In India's treatment protocol, whichever medicines are used are repurposed drugs. These drugs are under investigation and there is little evidence to show that they work effectively. Therapies based on low certainty of evidence are ivermectin, which is an anti-parasitic drug, hydroxychloroquine, which is a 100-year-old medicine used for malaria and other ailments, and inhalational budesonide, which is to control wheezing and shortness of breath. Then there are off-label medicines like tocilizumab and medicines that have got emergency use authorization like remdesivir. What about other medications like blood thinners, heparin and steroids? The government says restrict the use and only use when the doctor advises. When the patient is moderately ill, anti-inflammatory or immunomodulatory therapy should be considered. This involves the use of steroids like dexamethasone. Heparin should be used only if there is no contraindication. HRCT chest should be done only if the condition is worsening. Biomarkers like CRP, D-dimer, CBC, KFT, IL-6 are all to be done if the condition is only worsening. The same applies to the patient if he is moved to an ICU. What do we now know about dexamethasone? Well, this is an inexpensive steroid that's being used in India. It modulates the immune response. It helps in treating autoimmune diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis. It is also used to treat other inflammatory conditions such as allergies, breathing disorders, skin conditions, among others. It was first produced in 1957 and has been in use since 1958. But it can only be used during moderate illness and on doctor's advice. The wrong usage is triggering mucormycosis or black fungus.
Now, indiscriminate use of steroids, as we are seeing of late, is leading on to the increase in the blood sugar levels of a lot of individuals. This makes very easy for the mucor to go and invade the system.
The novel coronavirus has thrown up challenges like never before. Like other countries, India too is using what it has at its disposal at best to manage the infection. In the absence of a definitive treatment for this infection, it is not unusual for the treatment protocol to change. In fact, there is a possibility that the treatment protocol could change even further in days and weeks to come. In New Delhi, Sneha Mordani for India Today. The government of India has allowed the use of plasma therapy to treat COVID-19 patients for a full year and more. But opinion has always been against it. Here's more. Not once, not twice, but several times the Indian Council of Medical Research had said that plasma therapy to treat patients of COVID-19 do not work. But in spite of growing evidence, the call to scrap it was taken only 3 days ago.
In our context, if something does not work, but still there is continuity in terms of false hope.
Okay.
Then there will be unnecessary, anxiety, spending of money, harassment and all of these. So I think that as evidence doesn't support, why should there be? Because
The Indian Council of Medical Research's PLACID trial, published in October 2020, came to the conclusion that convalescent plasma was not associated with a reduction in progression to severe COVID-19. In October last year, Professor Balram Bhargav, the DG of the ICMR, said, "We have discussed this in the National Task Force and are discussing further now with the Joint Monitoring Group that this may be deleted from the national guidelines." That is the discussion ongoing, and more or less we are reaching towards that.
This is a living document, the clinical guidance. This is a new disease with whatever mode of treatment is being used are mostly experimental or resourced from other diseases. So to actually be able to say that, yes, this is going to work, this is not going to work, that is very difficult. And so that is why so many studies have taken place. And this guideline is actually reviewed time and again. And now as we are finding such rampant use of plasma, which in many cases are not judicious, and they are being used at any stage of the disease. And so again, the guidance was reviewed and it was taken a call that it can be taken off.
Most recently, the randomized evaluation of COVID-19 therapy or recovery trial conducted by the University of Oxford found that the use of plasma therapy on hospitalized COVID patients does not improve survival rate or any pre-specified clinical outcomes. Another study in Argentina, whose findings were published in the New England Journal of Medicine, also came to the same conclusion. Science will guide us, evidence will change, and our decisions could change further. That is the message from India's top scientific body on evolving protocol for treatment of COVID-19. Well, in spite of many asking if the data was available in October last year, why was a call not taken earlier to scrap plasma therapy altogether? In New Delhi, Sneha Mordani for India Today. I spoke earlier to Dr. Aparna Mukherjee of the Indian Council of Medical Research on why did the ICMR drop plasma therapy from the treatment protocol. Here's what she told me. Aparna Mukherjee is a scientist of the Indian Council of Medical Research and she is now joining us. Thank you for your time. Finally, the ICMR has taken a call to drop plasma therapy from the treatment protocol. But this has been going on for a while now, a discussion on this. In fact, do you think this decision could have been taken earlier? Why now, after 7 months after ICMR chief came out in the public and said that we believe that the therapy doesn't work?
Right. So as I have been saying that this therapy was started in the first wave of the pandemic because it had a biological plausibility, it had a reason that we thought that it could work because it has antibodies. The plasma from a person who has been infected with COVID-19 and recovered would have antibodies which might neutralize the virus. And so this is being used, this was being used in India as well as across the world. And initially we had, ours was the first randomized controlled trial which was completed, and that did not show therapeutic benefit. But then we usually do not base any decisions on a single RCT or a single study. So since then, more studies have come up which are larger in various settings from UK, from Argentina, from Brazil, and they all have shown the similar results that there is no therapeutic benefit if it is given indiscriminately, and neither in mortality nor in progression to severe disease. So
okay, Dr. Mukherjee, I'm specifically asking you because the ICMR was convinced about 7 to 8 months ago that it doesn't work. Why did the ICMR take so much time? What was the main reason, if I can use this phrase, the last nail in the coffin for plasma therapy for the ICMR to take a call just 2 days ago?
This is a living document, the clinical guidance. This is a new disease with whatever mode of treatment is being used are mostly experimental or resourced from other diseases. So to actually be able to say that, yes, this is going to work, this is not going to work, that is very difficult. And so that is why so many studies have taken place. And this guideline is actually reviewed time and again. And now, as we are finding such rampant use of plasma, which in many cases are not judicious, and they are being used at any stage of the disease. And so, again, the guidance was reviewed, and it was taken a call that it can be taken off.
Dr. Mukherjee, which are the other medicines that could finally be dropped, given the fact that questions are now being raised on the use of something like a remdesivir also? There is a possibility, would you say, for the ICMR to drop other methods of treatment as well?
Oh, yes. As I said, this is a living document. That would mean that this is a dynamic document which is being revised again and again as per the evidence is available to us. So yes, remdesivir is also one molecule which has got a lot of conflicting evidence in regards to its utility. And as of now, we know that it does not affect the mortality. What it still does is it reduces the time for clinical improvement to some extent. So yes, once we get more concrete evidence or more convincing evidence, definitely all these drugs are going to be revised as the evidence arrives.
It's time for a break here. Much more news on the other side. Tamil Nadu, Punjab and Assam will peak in the next few days is the estimate of the Sutra model that has said that a third wave of cases may come in about 6 to 8 months in India. This is mathematical modeling by a panel that has been constituted by the government of India. Listen in. The worst is over in Delhi, Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh. All of these states have well passed their peak. A mathematical model has suggested. This has been done by IIT scientists. Big states like Tamil Nadu, Punjab, Himachal Pradesh and Assam are yet to see their peak.
Well, for Punjab, I believe we are very close to the peak. We may already be there, but we just have to wait and see for a few days. But it certainly looks to be really close to peaking. Tamil Nadu is still climbing up. Our model currently projects a peak towards the end of this month. But since they have recently gone into a significant lockdown, that may change things. We have to wait and see for a few days to understand really how the revised trajectory will look like. But for now, our model is suggesting May end.
The model suggests that Tamil Nadu may see a peak between the 29th of May and the 31st of May, while Puducherry may witness a peak between the 19th of May and the 20th of May. States in East and Northeast are yet to see their peak. Assam may see a peak between the 20th and the 21st of May, the model suggests. What about other places in the Northeast?
Meghalaya, we project to peak sometime towards the end of this month. Tripura is going to peak sometime from now towards the end of this month.
In the north, Himachal Pradesh and Punjab are witnessing a surge in cases. Himachal Pradesh may see a peak in the cases by the 24th of May and Punjab by the 22nd of May. States like Maharashtra, UP, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand, Rajasthan, Kerala, Sikkim, Uttarakhand, Gujarat and Haryana, besides Delhi and Goa, have already seen their peak.
महाराष्ट्र, केरला, राजस्थान, यूपी, गुजरात और छत्तीसगढ़ में एक कंटिन्यूड ट्रेंड टुवर्ड्स डिक्रीज इन एक्टिव केसेस भी नोट किया जा रहा है। दिल्ली जैसे हम आप लोगों की दृष्टि में लाना चाहेंगे, वह वीकली पॉजिटिविटी 25% से घटकर अब 13.6% हो गई है। मध्य प्रदेश 24.2 से 15.2% हो गई है। इसी तरह बिहार झारखंड, यूपी और गुजरात में वीकली पॉजिटिविटी लेस देन 10% नोट की जा रही है।
What about the third wave of the infection? The model says that it is expected in 6 to 8 months from now and the impact of the same could just be cushioned. Mathematical models help predict the intensity of coronavirus cases and policy decisions can be taken on its basis. The Sutra model came into existence last year after the Department of Science and Technology formed a group of scientists to work on mathematical models to forecast the surge of coronavirus. Susceptible, undetected, tested positive and removed approach is what Sutra model follows. In New Delhi, Sneha Mordani for India Today. With COVID on the rise, not just being careful outdoors but staying safe indoors is equally important. Therefore, disinfecting our homes is essential. I explain how this can be done. With COVID cases on the rise, not just being careful outdoors but staying safe indoors is equally important. Therefore, disinfecting our homes is essential. What about cleaning surfaces? Effective cleaning removes germs from surfaces and disinfecting goes a step further by killing them on the spot. But according to the experts, there is no need to be obsessive about cleaning surfaces. A recent report by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention says that there is no good evidence stating alternative disinfection methods like UV radiation, LED blue lights or sanitizing tunnels really work to kill the virus. Moreover, disinfectant without proper ventilation can actually cause more harm to your health than being useful. The CDCP's report mentions that fogging, fumigation and other such theatrical performances of industrial cleanliness can easily do more harm than good when it comes to human health. This is also because fogging at the levels needed to truly nip viruses from space can make it difficult for people to breathe. What are the risks then associated with increased use of disinfectants? People have resorted to washing fruits and vegetables with bleach and sanitizers, have applied household cleaning or disinfecting products to bare skin and intentionally inhaled or ingested disinfectants. But these products contain chemicals that may be harmful to your health, especially if they are not used appropriately. Some disinfectants contain quaternary ammonium compounds which can trigger asthma. Bleaching can cause respiratory, skin and eye irritation. People should use disinfectants that include hydrogen peroxide, alcohol, citric acid and lactic acid, but not on food items, clothes, utensils and definitely not on bare hands. Well, largely the good old-fashioned cleaning with soap, detergent and water is efficacious against COVID-19. Just the way we wash our hands with soap and water, our homes can be kept clean in the same way. Here are some more tips for cleaning. Use soap water to properly clean surfaces. If you use a disinfectant, read the product instructions in full so that you know how the disinfectant works and is to be applied. If using harsh chemicals to deep clean, wear a mask and protective eye gear. Keep the room open to enable ventilation. Children and the elderly should not enter the room for 4 days after deep cleaning. Open windows and doors to ventilate the space as you can clean the rooms. Above all, it's more important that one worries about wearing a mask in public and avoiding person-to-person spread of COVID-19 through close contact.